Good morning, y'all, and welcome to Monday Teaching Philosophy, a little bit of wisdom from the classroom trenches. And today we're going to talk about building relationships with your students. I said in my notes, relationship before redirection. But I want to say, when you're building relationships from the place of authority. You are the authority figure in that room. So you can't build a relationship from the place of friendship. As a teacher, you can't be friends with your students. I tell my students that I'm not your friend. I can be the best teacher that you want me to be, but we can never, ever, ever be friends. Because even when you get older, we can't be friends. I'm still your teacher. If I'm 40 and you 20, we ain't got no business being friends. Anyway, but you do want to build a relationship with your students. Each student is different. So you can't lump students all together in one group. You have to remember each student has a story and you have to learn their story. But that doesn't mean you let their story stop them from making right choices, because whatever your story is, you still got to make right choices. I tell my students all the time when they say, oh, well, this is going on and that's going on, Mr. Demi. I said, well, did you know, if you go rob a bank and you go tell the judge, oh, well, I was having a rough time and this happened and that happened, guess what? You still going to jail. So when you're building relationships with students, don't let that be the main thing that you are doing. You have to build a relationship from the place of authority. So in a lot of teachers start off with building relationships, but I say start off with putting your authority in place, letting the students know whether I build a relationship with you or not. I am the teacher in this room, and the relationship I'm going to build with you is teacher to student, not friends, not any other type of relationship. I'm your teacher. Now, I'm going to try to be the best teacher that I can be, but that's it. I'm not going to try to be friendly. I'm not going to, I'm going to ask you about your life and what's going on with you. But at the same time, these are my expectations, and my expectations will be followed. There are no exceptions. And, students actually want that. They want those hard expectations and those boundaries, because a lot of times students don't have it. And when they come to a place where they do have boundaries, then they feel safe. They feel safe to explore and safe to try new things and try new lessons and, stand in front of the class and things like that, because they do feel safe. And that's the relationship you want to build with your students. So whenever I talk about building relationship, that's where I'm talking about building relationship from there. I'm not talking about, oh, Henry had a hard life. We should know his life. You should. But Henry will appreciate you more if you see his hard life and use his life as a way to push him forward to achieve, rather than using his hard life to say, oh, well, you can't do it. It's okay. We understand. Mm-mm. That ain't going on in my classroom, because I don't care what happened to you. I still expect you to do right and make right choices. And that one of my students, this is why I'm coming up with this book I started writing called Heartless Teaching. And it's just the name now, it kind of shock you with the name. Just like I made this book called Stronger Than God. And everybody was like, oh, stronger than God. So that's where heartless teaching comes from. But In the Heartless Teaching model, it says, I don't care what happened to you. You still have to do what is right. Point blank, period. Because that's the way the world treats you. The world is not going to care that something happened to you. They're not going to say, oh, well, we won't take you to jail this time. Well, sometimes they do, but now, now with some of these judges, some of these judges let people off all the time. But most of the time, the world is not going to care. So when you get in the classroom, I love you and I care what happens to you, but I don't care what happens. You still have to do what's right. Whatever happened to you, I'm sorry. I apologize if you need some time to sit out for a minute and then come back to it. We can do that. But you still have to do what is right. You still have to do the assignments that are given. You still are expected to achieve what you need to achieve. And that's the kind of relationship I build with my students. I don't just build, trying to be friendly with them and getting to know them. And, that's not the kind of relationship students need. They can make friends out there. They don't need a teacher that's trying to be their buddy. Mm-mm. I'm going to need you to build a relationship with your students from the place of authority. You are the authority figure in that room. And a lot of times, students and their parents have had a bad relationship with authority figures. Some of their parents probably didn't have good relationships with their teachers. And so when you come in as a teacher who is building relationship from the place of authority, you are showing them this is the way, this is the relationship you should have with authority. When they interact with a policeman, this is the type of relationship you have. When you go to the library and the library child, I can't think of the library lady. I can't think of her name. The librarian is in there, that's the type of relationship you have, because this is a public space. When you go to the court, if you have to go to court, if you have to go to church, these are the ways you interact with leadership and with authority. So by you having a good relationship with your students, you are teaching them how to interact with authority figures, period. And so that's what I want to keep in your mind for this Monday teaching philosophy, that you build those relationships with your students, but build your relationships from the place of authority. Okay, I think that's all I had wrote down to talk about. So I'm going to leave it with that, y'all. As I said, where the spirit of learning is, there is liberty. Y'all have a good day.